My name is Monique.
And I'm Naveen from Before You Play.
And welcome to our first Q&A.
First ever, yes. This is a little bit of a different kind of video. Last month in our vlog, we said we wanted to do one of these videos. And seeing as our new vlog is coming out, we wanted to get this done. And so basically what we're going to be doing is just answering a bunch of questions that we got from that vlog, as well as from some social media questions. And we're going to do it today.
Mm-hmm. We compiled a list of these questions from Instagram, from Twitter, just from kind of everywhere, our Patreon, and we actually got a ton of questions. So we're not going to be able to answer every single one of them in this video. The ones that we don't answer, we'll save for a video for the future. What we did try to do is we tried to compile like-type questions, and we tried to prioritize questions that were asked several times. Mm-hmm. And we broke them down into 3 separate categories of questioning.
Yep.
So people asked about our channel and just content creation in general, as well as our personal lives, and a little bit about our board gaming preferences. Mm-hmm. So those different categories, you can jump around in the description below. Without further ado, we are going to get started. I'm going to read the questions in front of me here, as well as include some questions at the bottom so that you can follow along. First question: what made you want to start making board game media? What did you wish you knew now when you started? And do you have any tips for growing your YouTube channel beyond just consistency?
So you're asking, okay, so
3-part question.
Okay, 3-part. So what made you want to start making board game media? So technically, I just latched on to what Monique was already doing. So Monique had started doing some media on Instagram, as well as a couple tutorial videos mm-hmm. on YouTube. And I was mostly just helping her set up and make sure lights kind of, were looking good. But I wasn't actually doing any of the or in front of the camera kind of stuff. So I don't know, we get along, we do pretty much everything together. So I just said, yeah, you want me to help you out, or do you want me to be part of it? And so here I am.
Yeah, so we started on Instagram doing like Insta reviews, which we have stopped doing because they take a lot of time. Yep. But after that, we actually had a couple friends who are in the content creation space, and that kind of gave us the inspiration to try and teach games on YouTube, because that's kind of what we were doing in real life in our local conventions, and something that we really, really love doing. So we felt like there was a little bit more of a need to teach people how to teach games, and so we kind of started doing that.
Yeah.
Those videos take a really long time, so we've since stopped, which brings us to the next question. What did you wish you knew now when you started? And do you have any tips for growing your YouTube channel beyond just consistency? So it sounds like the person who asked the question is somebody probably in content creation, because they know that the number one most important thing, seems like, is consistency.
Yep, totally.
But outside of that, going back to the story about making the tutorials, I would recommend focusing on content that you enjoy making the most. Because a lot of people kind of look for what content is lacking in the industry, which is also, a fair way to approach it. But it's not necessarily what's going to bring you the most joy. And content creation is a very long process. You're kind of in it for the long haul. So you should have a plan for like 4 months down the road, when the honeymoon phase is over and you have to continue making content, and maybe you start burning out. So what is it going to look like for you at that point?
Yeah, so you want the content to be, the one that you're producing, to be something that you enjoy producing, not so much, like Monique said, something you think that people are just going to want to watch, just because that's kind of what your end goal is, to have people just watching stuff.
And also, if you're making the content that you feel the most passionately about, it's also going to be your highest quality content. And I think that's one of the things that drives audiences the most, is if they can see how passionate you are about it, etc.
Yep,
right?
Totally. Yep.
So.
Oh, another thing I would say is, since I'm the one that handles most of the equipment, don't go out and just buy a bunch of equipment just because you've seen things on YouTube. I highly recommend just using what you got. See if you even enjoy creating the content. And if you do, and you want to start leveling up your audio quality or your lighting, video quality, then at that point, start to slowly, incrementally increase the different equipment that you have. But I wouldn't go out and say, okay, must have this, must have that. Just focus on the actual content itself, and then kind of work around and make it better from there. Okay, the next question we have is, what is your favorite thing about reviewing games and producing content as a couple? Does it always make things easier, or is there anything you think might be more challenging than being a solo content creator?
I think that I like everything.
Sure, yeah.
I think everything is better making content together. I don't think that that's necessarily going to be true for everybody. I think it depends on what your relationship is like with the person you're making content with, because it's not always couples, right? There are people who are doing it together in partnership. And so are you competing brains? Are you having difficulty dividing out tasks? those are things that
creative differences.
Yeah, those are things that could potentially pose an issue, and it's just not something that shows up in our dynamic. So I think that if we were not producing content as a couple, I probably would have burnt out if I were continuing to make these tutorial videos that I was kind of struggling doing after a while. I think I would have burnt out and probably wouldn't have lasted.
I would have never started. So
So I think
we work well
that
together.
And specifically in our situation, we are privileged to be in a situation where we are also each other's primary board gaming partners. So we can play test a game at 2 a.m. and it not be an issue. Scheduling is just way easier because it's just kind of around our own time. So
yeah, I think it only took us about maybe a month and a half before we started really realizing, okay, you're gonna do all the equipment, I'll do the editing part, you do this, you do that, and then so now that we've kind of have this flow, it's a lot easier.
It's a lot easier, yeah. Which do you honestly enjoy more and why? Replaying an old game or learning a new one and sharing the hotness with all of us? And has your game playing been more or less enjoyable since you started before you play? So this is a multifaceted question.
It's a good question. Do I enjoy old or the new hotness more? You know what? Honestly, I think the old stuff. Yeah, I do. Because, I don't know, there's something so satisfying about pulling a game off the shelf that you haven't played in a while, or something that you see like, oh, when was this made? Oh, 2013, which is, 7-8 years now. That's pretty old in board games, and it's be like, wow, this is such a good game. Like, I cannot believe I have not played this one in XYZ, amount of time. So I really enjoy playing some of the old stuff. And
don't get me wrong, the hotness is obviously really fun because you get to experience what new concepts are they going to come out with, new themes, like what is this person thinking of next, and a lot of times reviewers do get kind of the jump on certain titles, so we get to be the first to kind of know what the game is like and share it with all of you. So that all of that is very exciting.
That is exciting, yeah.
And really fun. But there's so many reviewers out there who feature the hotness. And so I just feel like there aren't a whole lot of people who are willing to go back and bring out those games from 2013, from 2015, because a lot of games age very well.
Totally.
Like a lot of games that you can pull off the shelf from 2013, and they're just like, if this game came out today, I would think that this game was amazing.
It'd be perfect, yeah.
So
it's part of the reason why we like to do the designer series, which is what we're doing right now, where we basically chronicle old games all the way up to the most modern and new game of one particular designer, and then we get to kind of play through them. And so we like showcasing games in general. We do like to do the new stuff, but that's one of the best ways that we find doing the old one.
And to answer your question, in my opinion at least, I think game playing, technically the actual action of playing games, has become more enjoyable after starting our channel because we do have access to more games.
Sure, yeah.
We are now forced to play games several times as opposed to before, where maybe we might just play a game once with a friend and then kind of move on to the next thing. And we also kind of like to deep dive into the different components and discuss it because we know that we're going to review it, and that's not something that we necessarily used to do before starting our channel. So I think that game playing has become more enjoyable in that sense, but also we have less time to do it.
Yeah, we have more of a discussion now about games versus like, wow, that was a great game. Okay, next game kind of thing. So it's nice to kind of get that kind of part of my brain working when after we play a game for the first time or second time, and be like, okay, what do we really like about this game, or what do we, what was not our favorite part of it. So yeah.
What are your longer term goals for your channel, and do you ever see this being a full-time job, and any goals for 2021?
Long-term goals for the channel, honestly, for us, it's just make more videos. I don't know. We just want to do it for a very, very long time, as far as we can. We are very in the moment type people when it comes to our channel, and so we don't really look past 3 months. Yeah, we kind of have like a short-term calendar, and then at that point we don't really have like, okay, what's happening a year from now, 2 years from now. And the main reason is because we always seem to have a backlog of games that we need to be covering, and so it's hard for us to really look that far ahead. But to answer your question, I think the long-term goals are just the same as the current short-term goals, which is just continuing to showcase games and teach you how to play them, and to just, hopefully assist in people learning these games. Games are going to be releasing every year, no matter what. So it's not like we're going to have a shortage of games. Yeah. So I think maybe something a little bit different is we do want to start collaborating more with people on our channel, which is something that we haven't figured out how to do yet, or what kind of format we want to do that with. But collaborating with other people in the industry is always something that we have at the forefront of our minds.
that we need to figure out how to do. I don't necessarily see this as being a potential full-time job, only because the careers that we have right now, we went to school for quite some time, and I just don't really see us leaving those careers. And so this is still a very good, I guess it's like a part-time job almost,
side gig,
like a side thing that we do on our free time. So, and any goals for 2021, we are going to be talking about our New Year's resolutions as a part of our monthly vlog that is coming tomorrow. So check it out.
How important is representation in board games to you or to the community?
Very important. Representation is very, very important in all aspects of media, in anything that we consume. And that's specifically to us. You know, for some people, that opinion might differ. And it's not something that we discuss a whole lot on our channel, potentially to our detriment. Maybe we are doing a disservice by not talking about it more when we talk about themes of games. But we know it can be a controversial topic. But for us, to answer your question, it is very important. Representation is how you can relate to a certain topic, right? So if we're playing a game that we just have a hard time relating to, or maybe has a theme that we may interpret as being offensive, it's going to factor into our experience with the game.
Yeah, overall enjoyment. Yeah, representation is really important. You know, I grew up here in Southern California, where it's a melting pot of people of different diversities and backgrounds, ethnicities. And so I think it should be kind of the standard in board games, you know, that we should see a diverse group of people within a game. Because that's what the world is made of, is people from all different races, ethnicities, religions, and I think it should be the gold standard in most games.
Do you watch The Dice Tower and Shut Up and Sit Down? What are your thoughts about them?
Yeah, so I still watch Tom Vassell. He is, if I'm looking for a quick just overview of a game, I do watch Tom Vassell. Shut Up and Sit Down, I don't really watch too much because it's hard to pick out the information that I really need from Shut Up and Sit Down. I do appreciate what they do, but it's more comedy sketch with the board game kind of intertwined within that sketch. So it's a little bit difficult when I'm pressed on time to be able to then sift through their videos. So that's the honest truth for them, but I appreciate both of them. Yeah,
Shut Up and Sit Down, they're very, very intelligent in the way that they review, and I really appreciate about them. But also, I do get that it's like typically like a really long video where you have to wait and see where the information is kind of littered around the video.
There's jokes, there's skits, so it's like I just need to get to it.
We're more to the point people when it comes to consuming board gaming content, and for that reason, yes, we watch The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is probably the channel that we've probably watched the most consistently. The Dice Tower, as well as Watch It Played. Because Rodney Smith is so awesome as a human. And so though Tom Vassell's review style just works for us. He does a very, very quick overview and he gets to the point at the end and it just works.
Yep. So how do you pick which games to review and what designers are you considering for your designer series?
That is a good question. So, and that's also like a multi-step answer, I think. So by the time you see a game featured on our channel, it has gone through several layers of filtering, which is also part of the reason why a lot of times people will say, oh, you like every game. It's not true. We don't like every game. We are just very, very picky about which games we feature because we're playthrough based and these videos take so long to make.
Yes.
And so to answer your question, we always kind of have our eyes on which games are going to be releasing this year, which games are going to be relating to our interests the most, because we definitely specialize in like heavier Euros. That is the genre that we love the most. And so if there are games that are by designers who we've loved in the past, that we are always wanting to try them, games by certain publishers who has also had a very good reputation for putting out games that we like, those are games that we are most likely going to feature on our channel. Every now and then we do get asked by people who are going to run a Kickstarter campaign, and so even with them, with Kickstarters, we don't take every project. We will try to filter and make sure that it's something that we are going to enjoy featuring, that maybe the people who watch our channel are also going to enjoy.
Yep, exactly.
So several steps of filtering. For the designer series...
Well, the first one was Vital Serta, which is your favorite designer and one of my top favorite designers. So that was a no-brainer for us. We owned most of the games and we're like, hey, you know what? Let's just show these off and let's challenge ourselves to see if we can show off these huge, heavy games. And so... there was that one, and then Alexander Pfister, I think we just kind of said, we like a good amount of his games. Somebody recommended it.
Yeah.
And so we were like, yeah, okay. Like we own a couple of those games. Let's try to get that going.
So there are a lot of things that we consider also with the designer series. Is this a designer that we are interested in learning more about their background? Have we played some of their games and really found them interesting? We don't necessarily have to like them. Like,
Sure, yeah.
I didn't like Great Western Trail before we started Alexander Pfister series. And also, does this person have games that are going to be accessible to us? Because there's no way that we can do these designer series and purchase every game that's going to be on there. Yeah. So we have to be able to either have them in our collection or be able to reach out to the publisher or have a friend who has them. Fortunately for us, we have a lot of friends in our area who have a lot of board games. But it has been a little bit more difficult in this past year to try to reach out to get these board games because of COVID. Yep. And so there's just a lot of these things that come into play. Yep. How many plays does it take for you to feel comfortable doing the walkthrough? And can you provide tips on how to teach a game?
Ooh, okay. We play a game probably at least twice. Minimum?
Yeah, minimum twice before we film.
Before we film?
So the filming is a third minimum.
Yeah. In terms of tips on how to teach the game, that Monique does all the teaching, so I will pass.
Going back to the first question, sometimes we will play the game a little bit more if we feel like maybe we just didn't click, the first couple of times, or we just kind of need to know what it's like to incorporate a different strategy. And that is mainly so that we can showcase the game well. Because it's one thing to be able to review a game. It's another thing to be able to now teach it in a way that we feel makes sense. So for that reason, we play the game a couple times.
Yeah, totally.
For teaching tips, so that is something that we may consider doing this year, like a series on how we teach games. But I think a really good preliminary tip is if you're struggling to teach a game, always go from general to specific. It's like writing an essay, right? Like if you have a game that has a lot of different types of mechanics at play, don't dive into the mechanics. Some people may have reasons for doing so, and so this is not
telling you what to do.
There are exceptions to this rule. Yeah. In general, what I feel like has helped is always starting with, what is this game about? What is the object of the game? How many rounds? And turn structure. And then kind of going into the mechanics. What does a turn look like? Then people will have an idea as to how this game is played.
Yeah. Even if it's a super dry Euro, just starting with, okay, we are builders in the Renaissance and we're doing this. It just kind of frames you like, oh, that makes sense why you're getting wood,
Yeah, it sets the tone, right?
Exactly,
you want to get your mind out of the real world and into this game that you're going to embark on for 2 hours. Exactly. So it does help set the stage for that. And you always want to define concepts before talking about them.
Yes.
So take, for example, any trick-taking game.
Sure. Yeah.
If I were to teach a trick-taking game to somebody and say, okay, when you win the trick, then you do this. That would make no sense to them. You need to define what a trick is and what you're doing, specifically in this game before you can go into the actual nitty-gritties of the game. Yep. So just being mindful of defining all concepts before jumping into how to play the game is really important.
Yep, totally. You mentioned first impressions aren't something you guys usually do, and I've noticed that some people want several plays to form an opinion, whereas others say they usually know how they feel about a game after 1 or 2 plays. How often does your official opinion on a game differ from your first impression? That's a good question. Surprisingly, it actually happens a lot.
It does.
Yeah. Where
it happens more with you.
It happens more with me. Yeah. Where at first I'm like, yeah, okay, well, it's kind of fun. And then it's like I sit on it and I think about it. It's mostly after the gameplay, and it's just like me just thinking. I'm like, okay, well, what was kind of? Oh, you know what? That was actually really good. And then, okay, you know what? Let's play it again. And then on that second play, if on the second play I still have the same feeling, typically it's not going to change.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And I feel like the reverse is true. Like sometimes we'll play a game, and in theory, when I'm teaching the game to Naveen, he'll say like, "Wow, that sounds really interesting," and we'll kind of play it and it falls flat. That also happens. Yeah. But for me, I feel like it happens a lot less. I don't know if it's because I read the rule books all the time, and that's just like, for me, it's like a really good way for me to absorb what the game is going to be about, but it does happen. And we are actually this year, as a part of our Patreon, this is something that we're going to talk about in our vlog tomorrow, but we are actually going to be putting out first impression vlogs as a part of the Patreon reward system. So if you're interested in watching those, then check out our vlog tomorrow for more information. Would it be possible to do a video of your personal collection? And did you ever get around to updating your board gaming collection on BGG?
Okay, so this question was asked because we said a little while back that we would have our BGG collection under our Before You Play name on BGG, and have a list of pretty much all the games that we own. We never actually did that, but Spoiler alert, we did start updating our BGG, so just a heads up, you can check it out.
Yes, so what he means to say is, the answer is yes, we did. We have our full collection up on our BGG profile. We'll include a link below if you'd like to see it.
Yep.
We did it mainly because, we've been gearing up a lot in the past month for our Patreon True tier release. And one of the levels is going to be the ability to nominate a board game from our Shelf of Shame for us to cover once a month or so. And so if you go and look at the list, anywhere that you see like 5 asterisks in the comments, those are board games that we have never played that are on our shelf. It's not a good number. You're going to see it and you're going to think, these people, what are they doing? They just acquire games and they don't play them.
You're going to see some games on there also. They're like, they haven't played that game?
Yes.
What?
I know.
Yeah.
We know.
Yeah.
We know. But yes, hopefully this year, with people pushing us to play these games and feature them on our channel, then we'll be able to get those games played. As for doing a video of our personal collection, we do not have any plans to do that in the next 2 or 3 months, but we will consider it for maybe the second half of the year.
But the next couple questions are about conventions. This first one is, will you be coming to UK Games Expo in 2021 if it happens?
I don't think it's gonna happen.
I don't know.
Seeing as we are in January and things are looking the way they are. Even if, I don't know, that is a very, very difficult question to answer right now. Just because, we are in Southern California where it's like a really, really big hotspot for COVID at the moment, and we're kind of seeing it firsthand. And so it just doesn't seem fit for us to even walk outside of our house. So conventions in general, we don't know. The answer to that question is we don't know. Sure. We're probably not going to be attending any conventions in the first half of the year. So we'll see. The next question was, before COVID, what convention was your favorite to attend? I know your answer, but
go ahead.
For me, it's actually our local one, Strategicon. Strategicon is a ton of fun. It happens 3 times a year. We've spoken about this convention in the past. This is a convention that is for people who are in Southern California, or anybody if you're willing to take the trip. And it's just a whole weekend of fun, Friday through Monday of nonstop gaming, 24-hour, I think it's 24-hour access to the library.
Not the library, but 24-hour access to just get open tables, open play. You can play from basically Friday at noon all the way until, I believe, Monday at 4 p.m. Something like that.
Oh, it's so fun. And over the years, we've made so many friends going to this convention. So whenever we go to it, that's pretty much the only time that we can kind of see all of them at the same time. And it's always this huge, it's like a family gathering.
It's really fun,
It's really fun. How about you?
Yeah, well, for me, I love I'm not going to say no to that, but gotta be my favorite is Essen. We've gone to Essen, I think 3 times maybe. And every single time I have a great time, great time. The halls, just walking up those crowded halls, which obviously you can't do right now because of COVID. But just walking and the excitement of when the doors open and there's all these fresh new games. Even though I know earlier we said we like the old games, there's something still exciting about going there and just feeling the energy.
It's very exciting.
And then the people of Europe are just amazing. I really like the vibe and the way that kind of you interact with other people from all over the world.
It's like you're at a table and you have one person speaking one language, another person speaking another, and then the person who's teaching us the game is trying to teach everybody in English, and it's just this that's a true melting pot. When you go to Essen, you have people from all different countries, from Spanish-speaking countries everywhere, and it's just so beautiful to just be around everybody. So that is another convention that we are no doubt going to be attending again in the future once it's safe to do so. Okay, so now we're venturing into the questions about us as humans, and we're going to try to go through these quickly because there's a lot of quick answers to this. How did we meet?
Okay, so I was doing my clinical rotations at the same place that Monique was doing her master's program, and so we hit it off there.
Long story short, I guess. We've been together
since 2012 was when we met.
8 years?
8 years. We're in our 9th year now.
Going into our 9th year, and we've been married for 3.5 years. That was the next question. Who introduced each of us to board games? If you go and watch our video we did a review for a game called Don't Get Got with footage that was taken a year ago. That was not during COVID times, by the way. There are 2 other people in that video. Those 2. Ronald and Norman. Ronald and Norman. Ronald and I have been best friends since we were 4. Since before kindergarten. We went to school all throughout all of our schools together, and we've stayed in touch. We were both in the same profession, so we're like really attached to the hip. And he introduced Naveen to Splendor.
Yes.
To him and Norman both introduced Naveen to Splendor, and kind of helped with that snowball effect.
Getting it going,
that
yeah.
board gaming.
Yeah, because we both played board games growing up, and then around like middle school, high school, stopped playing in college also, and then I guess I was more in tune and more accepting of like, hey, we're gonna play this game. And it's like, okay, well, what is this? And so Splendor it was, and it was from Ronald and Norman.
Yeah. Who was into board gaming first?
Like in life, I don't know, because I was playing like Shoots and Ladders.
No, hobby board gaming.
Hobby board gaming. You?
Yeah.
You.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It was because I graduated from said master's program in 2015, and at that time I was just really craving social interaction because I moved to Southern California from where I'm originally from, which is the Bay Area. And I didn't really have that many friends outside of my own classmates.
Right.
And so I found meetups, and it kind of just was a snowball effect there as well. We made new friends, and Naveen was kind of like, what are you doing over there?
Yeah.
There was a whole convention, I think, a whole Strategicon that I went without Naveen. I would arguably say that Naveen might be into them more than I am now. So it's interesting how that balance switched.
Yeah. What state do you live in? California.
Yes.
We are in Cali.
Other than board gaming, what are some of your favorite things you two like to do?
Okay, well...
Who does things outside of board gaming? That's a...
Pre-COVID, we like going to concerts. We like going to live music.
Pre-COVID.
That's one of the things that we really enjoy. We don't watch too much TV or movies. I mean, I love movies, but for some reason we don't watch as many.
We don't have time.
Yeah.
We're always doing content.
I know.
I think, to answer the question, we both play a lot of video games, believe it or not.
It's weird. With video games, like, I'll go through phases of, like, I'll play for a lot for, like, 2 months, and then I'll go, like, 5 months of just literally not ever playing a video game. So I go in these, like, peaks and valleys.
And to answer your question, because any video gamers out there are probably thinking this, Naveen is an Xbox hog, so I don't play any video games on the Xbox. Naveen will play them. But I am a Switch hog, so he doesn't... So now when we look for video games, I stay away from the Xbox territory.
You can play it. It's fine.
And Naveen stays away from the Switch.
I do stay away from the Switch, yeah.
I've been obsessed with Slay the Spire, Hades, Animal Crossing, of course. Lots and lots and lots of games. And
for me, it's Halo. Halo, I love that game.
And also, we also like to play music. So that's probably the other love. Before board gaming, we were both musicians, and we still are. We just don't play a whole lot of music anymore. You might see some of it every now and then when we do our monthly vlogs. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I
like sports. Also, I love football, professional football. That is the one thing that we do not get along on.
That's the one thing.
I love watching NFL football, and Monique can't stand it. It's a dexterity game. It's a huge dexterity game.
With ridiculous rules. Just like constantly made up rules everywhere you go. Like elbow touching the ground. I don't know. And we both like travel.
Yeah.
Pre-COVID and post-COVID. That is what we love doing.
What is the name of the graphic novel about philosophy and any others you'd recommend?
Yes, okay, so I think that's a question for me. So to answer your question, the graphic novel is called Day Tripper. This is it right here. This was actually sent to me from Kellen from the Board Game Barrage podcast. Fantastic podcast, by the way. And this graphic novel probably changed my life. It's by Fabio Moon and Gabriel Ba. I apologize if I mispronounce those names, and it was actually an Eisner Award winner. So it's all about the philosophies of life and death. It has some like very heavy topics in here, but I really love that one. There are a ton of graphic novels out there that are fantastic. There's Why the Last Man, The Wicked and Divine. There's Postal, Saga, Lock and Key, and those are the ones that I can remember off the top of my head. But if you'd like a longer list, let me know and we can exchange recommendations. How old is Dexter? Oh, Dexter. Okay, so these next few questions are about Dexter. If you're not familiar with Dexter, this is Dexter. He's turning 9.
He will be 9.
He'll be 9
on
this
the 23rd.
Month, on the 23rd, yeah. It's going to be his birthday, and he is a miniature Dachshund, aka a wiener dog, and he is the love of my life. How did he join the family? So he actually joined the family before Naveen did.
Yeah, that's right.
Before I was accepted into my master's program, I thought that I had really slim chances for some reason of getting in because it was a very demanding program. And so I was working from home at the time, and I needed someone to keep me company. And so that's when I decided to adopt a furry friend. and he's been my partner in crime ever since. I used to drive back and forth from LA to the Bay Area, San Francisco, which is where I'm from, which is like a 6-hour drive, and it would just be me and him. He would be in the passenger seat vomiting every now and then because he gets motion sick. But yeah, we are best friends to the end. Will Dexter have a sibling soon? We really go back and forth about that because Dexter's a little bit aggressive.
He can be.
He can be.
Territorial.
He's very territorial when people come into the house or with other dogs. And so we don't know. We think that it would be nice for him to have a buddy just because we do worry about him being lonely. He has a little bit of separation anxiety. And so eventually we would like to, but we're just nervous about how to integrate a second dog.
Yeah, it would have been good to get that second dog last year.
When
everything's locked down, So we don't know yet.
Okay, and just some quick favorites before we move into our last section. Who is your favorite musician or band? Name of a favorite movie? All that kind of stuff.
Favorite band is a band called Muse from England. I've been to
Have you heard of them?
Probably like 6 concerts. I love their music. Great, fantastic music. And favorite movie? One of my favorite movies is one called Gattaca. It's a dystopian future.
About genetics
movie. I don't want to give anything away.
But you also like Quentin Tarantino.
I do like Quentin Tarantino films, yes. I like his collection of movies, but I don't know if I would say like one of them is my favorite movie.
The way that we do the designer series on our channel is what Naveen likes to do with Quentin Tarantino. He wants to go through a whole binge one day when we have time.
Yeah, well, I've seen most of them, if not all of them. I want Monique to be introduced to them.
Yes, because I have not seen many of them. My favorite musician is an artist named Kina Granis. She was actually a YouTube artist, like somebody who got her start on YouTube. And I love her. Like, she got me started on writing music, on playing the guitar when I was in college, and just I love everything about her. She's not technically mainstream, but you may have seen her in Crazy Rich Asians, that movie. She was the one who sang for the wedding. Favorite movies? My top 2 of all time are probably the original Jurassic Park, because how incredible is that movie?
Animatronics. That's the way to go. Yeah.
It's still, I think it still lives up to this day.
Yeah, totally. And
Titanic. Very, very long movie, but very good.
Yes.
Okay, so into our last section here, which is about
board games in general. Okay, so we'll rapid fire these.
Yes.
Favorite player count?
Depends on the game.
Has to depend on the game.
But in general, you like?
3. I think 3 players is the right count for a lot of games.
I think 3 is good also. I think it depends on the game and the players.
Yeah.
So I enjoy a 4-player game.
Sure.
Within reason. I think I probably enjoy them more than you do. But I do agree, 3 is a nice sweet spot for a lot of games. And for those really heavy, long ones, I like 2. Have you tried any Splotter/18xx games?
Okay.
We have played...
Yes. We played Food Chain Magnate.
Food Chain Magnate.
And man, that was I didn't. Yeah, it was all taught to me right away, and then it's like, okay, now we're gonna play. And the very first thing you do at the very beginning of the game is you have to make a decision on a decision tree. And apparently I didn't make the right decision.
I think you made a fine decision.
Obviously, there's people that play it one way, but I did not understand advertising fully.
Yes.
And so I just started advertising. If you guys know how this game is played, I started advertising for everybody else and not really for myself. And there was no way to stop the ad campaign.
He didn't understand the airplane advertising. And so I was in a very good spot to sell burgers or something, and suddenly Naveen was airplane advertising only for me.
Yeah.
And for the rest of the game,
there
is a 3-player game. We all just sat there as I just took in all this income that I was not responsible for at all. Like that, I did not deserve that win whatsoever.
It was weird. I feel like in that game you should be able to pull the advertising. Like, okay, I don't like that ad. We're cutting ties with it. You still pay for it, but you don't actually physically advertise. I don't know.
So that's the only Splotter that we've tried. I liked it more than Naveen did, but I also think that we just need to try it again with a true understanding of how the game is played.
Yeah.
18xx is, wow. We have played one.
1846.
1846. Yeah. It was incredibly long.
Very long.
And I think you liked it more than I did.
I enjoyed it. I could not describe it to you anymore.
I liked who we were playing with. I think the game is mechanically solid. I just don't know if I enjoyed it. I don't think I enjoyed it.
Okay.
To tell you the truth.
That's fair.
Yeah. And it's not against train games. Like I think train games are excellent. For
we
example,
like Age of Steam.
Age of Steam, yeah, I really, really like Age of Steam.
Yeah.
I think it was just, I don't know, there was just something about it that I was just like...
I think in that particular game,
teeth.
like you have to play until the bank breaks or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was just like this long.
It's very long. But I can see why people like it. And there are a ton of people who absolutely adore 18xx games. And that's awesome. I think maybe I would be willing to try another one. I just don't... If that was the easiest one out there, I would be fearful of trying a different one that's not the same kind of easy, I guess, right?
Do you cull your collection? If so, what do you do with the games that are leaving?
We constantly cull our collection. And that's something else that we're considering doing for the channel. Like I know John from John Gets Games, who is an excellent content creator, by the way. Go check him out. He does like a games leaving the shelf. I think that's one of the things that he does.
I think so, yeah.
And
I know Board Game Co does that also.
Yeah, we may ask to borrow that concept because we do call constantly.
We do, yeah.
And part of the reason why is because we get an influx of games, and so we're not one to want to grow like a huge collection, especially if we know we can't play them all.
If you go to that BGG list, you'd be like, wow, they have a lot of games. So therefore, whenever new games come in, we have to be like, okay, realistically, are we going to play this game? Even though it's a fantastic game, would it be better served with somebody
else who's going to play it more?
Yeah, and so the process typically how we call would be during normal times, meaning non-COVID, Strategicon, our local convention, we do a math trade as well as a flea market there. So you can basically trade the games, and it's great.
And I know that the math trade sounds counterintuitive because you're typically giving up a game and getting games back. But at Strategicon, they allow monetary trades.
Yes.
So you could still essentially be selling a game as a part of the math trade.
Exactly.
So it's a good way for us to still offload games. Our culling system has not been very good in the past year because of COVID.
Yeah, totally. So. Yep. Are there any themes you actively dislike or conversely seek out? And are there any board games you will refuse to play and why?
That is a very good question. I'm not a big fan of Westerns or war games in general. Anything that is like a historical simulation, I'm not really into that. I will, however, seek out animal games, like games that have like really cute animal meeples, so like New York Zoo, that was already a plus for me. Dinosaur themes, I really, really, really love dinosaurs. But for me, it's more about the art. So the game can have any kind of theme, as long as, like, even if it's a Western theme, if the art is done a certain way, it would still appeal to me.
Sure. Yeah, so since I'm not really too keen or big on theme, I'll pretty much play anything. Yeah.
Yeah, which I guess answers that last half of the question, right? In theory, there are games with very controversial themes that I would probably not want to play. But a part of me wants to say that I would try any game once.
Sure.
But we definitely wouldn't cover every game.
Right. Yep, that's fair.
Have you ever thought about designing your own game? And how often do you think about ways that you could improve upon a game?
Design our own game? No, I'm not creative enough. No way. Sometimes we will say like, I wonder, in that game, when you did that one thing, it should be done this way. And we're like, okay, maybe we'll look it up on BGG if anybody else has that same opinion. So sometimes we will have that kind of discussion when we play a game. But in terms of designing our own,
it happens fairly often. It doesn't happen every time, but it does happen fairly often where we would say, that's an interesting design choice that this designer made. I wonder if they did it this way, if it would have a different effect. But obviously, whenever we do that, we're just theorizing. These games are all backed by a certain amount of hours of playtesting that we don't have. So it's all just in like theory kind of mode.
Yeah,
but it does happen.
What board games have you had the most differing opinion on? Okay.
Deck builders.
Deck builders,
Deck builders, and any games that are narrative driven where you have to read. Like, there's a whole lot of text on this card, and my experience with the game is going to be dependent on me understanding that full text of on this card.
Yeah.
So games like Terraforming Mars, or even mystery, narrative driven games like Chronicles of Crime, or those are the games that I tend to enjoy more than Naveen.
Yeah, it's not that I don't like them. It's just I prefer just put the people there, take the action there.
He doesn't want to read.
Yeah, sometimes I just, because we play a lot, like after work, like I've just finished writing reports and doing all these other things, and it's like, now I got to read this whole passage and then choose A or B based off the passage. It's like, I prefer not to.
Naveen is a Eurogamer through and through.
Yes.
So I think that on the opposite side, there are those kinds of games that we'll also disagree on, because I like a little bit of theme in my games.
A little bit. Yeah.
I'm not as keen on the super dry Euros as Naveen is.
But you always enjoy them when we play them.
Because they're usually mechanically sound.
Yeah, okay.
And for
Exactly.
me, mechanics still trumps theme.
Sure.
And Naveen really enjoys economic games.
Yes, I
And
do.
he's like, no, just do this. Your investment is going to be
Min-maxing
your ROI.
stuff.
Yeah, min-maxing the price of things. And that, like, the numbers just kind of spin in my head if I have to do it every single turn.
Yeah, so like sometimes it'll be like, should I hire this other meeple? I'm like, well, there's 3 rounds. The minimum you can get is $2 per round.
gosh.
So if it costs you $5 to hire him, so theoretically you can kerplunk and make $1.
And I'm sitting here like, just pay.
Any tips for getting family members involved who like games once they start playing but aren't always interested in getting started?
That is a very good question because I think a lot of people can relate to this.
Yes.
I can actually relate to this because I have siblings who don't necessarily love games but enjoy themselves once we start playing.
Yeah.
So what I would say is start light and go slow because you don't want to bombard them. If they already have that like hesitation, find out what types of games that they like playing and slowly introduce them.
Yeah.
You know, play games that are lighter. Basically, you want to eliminate all the barriers that have potentially been an issue in the past. Is it that they don't like learning rules? Then maybe play a game and play just that game several times.
Yes.
Because I have a sister who doesn't necessarily enjoy learning a new game every time we play games together. She likes to play games that we've already taught her.
Right.
And I respect that.
Fair
So
enough.
for some people, that might be the issue. For other people, it might be a time constraint. So maybe play something faster. Know who your audience is and try to tailor the games according to them.
Totally. Yeah.
What are your favorite deck builders? And are either of you into any lifestyle games like trading card games or miniatures? What are your favorite deck builders?
My favorite deck builder is probably Fort.
Yeah,
I like
that's the
Fort.
fun one.
So that's the one that we covered back in the summer last year, and it is a game. It's not your traditional deck builder. So I've said this a lot of times on the channel, and I don't like your standard deck building, like where it's like I have these basic cards. I then have to somehow figure out a way to get rid of these cheapy cards so I can get better ones, so I can then really like have these awesome combos. Like I'm not a big fan of that. Fort's a little different. That one you are constantly in flux. You start with a certain set of cards, and they can be very good cards, they could be mediocre cards, whatever you're trying to tailor your game to. And so what I like about this game is the cards you don't end up playing end up going into the table face up, and then in the future those can eventually leave your deck. So no cards are permanently yours, and so I like Fort. I think that's my favorite deck builder.
That's a very tough question for me because I enjoy deck builders. I will play pretty much any deck builder.
Slay the Spire, you're saying?
Slay the Spire is a deck builder technically on the Switch. Dominion is like the classic deck builder. That's like one of the very first deck builders that I'd ever played, and that still stands the test of time. But it's kind of difficult for me to say that that's my favorite because I haven't played it a whole lot in physical form. I played Star Realms a lot when I first got that game, and that's probably what led to Naveen disliking deck builders.
Yeah, Star Realms.
But I
would
love
get
that
destroyed
game.
by her.
That's a really fun one. Clank is another good one. There are a lot of like fusion deck builder games nowadays. And to answer your question, neither of us have played any trading card games or miniatures. Have we played miniatures?
We've played games that have miniatures, but not like miniature games.
Yeah.
So not really.
So yeah, maybe not really. We are toying around with the idea of doing like a first time playing kind of series in the future where we open up a deck of like Magic the Gathering and show it for us playing it for the first time. If you're interested in that, let us know.
Yeah.
But that is something that we're just kind of been joking around doing because we are kind of intrigued by the idea of these games and why they're so popular. Maybe in the future. Trains, what good 2-player train games are there? We kind of touched upon this earlier in the 18xx section, but we both really like Age of Steam. There is a 2-player map, although we haven't tried it. So I don't know if we've played a whole lot of 2-player train games.
Nope.
I know that there's like Irish Gauge. I don't even know if that's 2-player
Irish Gauge
game.
is 3 to 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it might be difficult to find a really good 2-player game, but I would start with Age of Steam.
Yeah.
Any tips on how to buy board games smartly?
Gosh.
I mean, we have this huge shelf of shame that you'll see if you click on that link. And so I don't know if we're really the ones to ask.
Well, we're not Kickstarter buyers. That's one thing. So we're not browsing Kickstarter. We just kind of stay completely out of that realm.
I think it's very, very easy for people to get into this board game hobby, fall in love with it, and start to hoard. So maybe what I would recommend, and something that maybe we should have done when we were like earlier in our journey, is to buy a certain amount of games, make sure that you play them all before buying more. Like establish limits and definitely put something in place that's going to watch your kickstarting spending, because neither of us have ever been into the kickstarting kind of like culture, I suppose. We will kickstart a game every now and then for various reasons, but we typically don't really do that.
I think we've only, in all these years, only a handful of times maybe have kickstarted a game.
Be cautious of the Kickstarter addiction. Find out who amongst the people in your board game group have what games, so maybe maybe you don't double buy. That might be a really helpful thing also. And constantly cull your collection, which means get rid of games that you're no longer playing, that you know that you probably won't play over a different game that's already in your collection, because those are the games that are most likely never going to get played. And pass them on to somebody that you know well. Any classics you dislike?
Classics I dislike?
I think it's hard because we need to define what classics includes. So
Risk.
You don't like Risk?
Yeah, I thought I did.
Liked Risk.
Yeah, well, now that I'm like deeper in the hobby,
I don't like Monopoly.
Yeah.
If you're not talking about those kinds of games, there are other games in the actual hobby that are considered classics. I do not like Cosmic Encounters. I know that's like a classic from like, I think it's like the 70s or 80s or something, right?
I have no idea. No.
I also don't like Puerto Rico for several reasons, but I'm not a big fan of Puerto Rico.
I remember enjoying that. That was early on in my modern board gaming, and I did enjoy that. For me, Ticket to Ride is a game that I will play now. That's considered a classic, but I don't go out of my way to play it.
You're not a big fan of it anymore.
No. Where do you recommend buying games from? A website, shops, different things like that?
I think the answer to this question is actually a lot more nuanced than the answer that we're able to provide. But for us, it's always your local gaming store. Your local independent gaming store first.
If possible, yeah.
Keep those places alive because they help spread the hobby. They do so much good for the hobby.
Yep.
So whenever we are going to buy a board game, we always try to consult our beautiful local gaming store first. Outside of that, supporting the publisher directly, but it also really just depends on your financial need and all that stuff. So it's a lot more nuanced than that.
Sure.
And so that is all of our questions that we have for you today. That was kind of a long video.
Long.
A lot of questions. There are a few more. So we're going to probably make another one of these videos in maybe another month or so. We're not exactly sure when yet. But feel free to post any other questions that you may have down below, and we will add it to that list.
Yep.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope that was entertaining at all. And keep an eye out for tomorrow's video because we are going to be releasing our very late monthly vlog. Hope you all have had a wonderful 2021 so far, and please be safe. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.